There's an NES game that has been lost to time. This game has only ever seen one rendition on the NES in 1990. It's a game that could compete with the best, like Super Mario Bros. And the first Legend of Zelda, and this game is called Star Tropics. It's not unlikely that you or someone you know has played this game before. The thing is, it's just been lost to the test of time. It was a game very similar to the first Legend of Zelda game, and in my opinion, much better. Comparing the two, the first Legend of Zelda game was very hard to find what you needed to do next and didn't have too much instruction, whereas Star Tropics, you knew what you had to do, and it guided you in that path. I also believe that the dungeons were much more fun in Star Tropics than they were in the first Legend of Zelda game. And considering these games came out at relatively the same time period, it's insane to see that Star Tropics was way ahead of its time, and that's just a personal opinion though. A lot of people might think that the original Legend of Zelda is better, and I can't fault them for that. But here's basically how the story played out. Instead of using a similar trope of the hero having to find the princess and save the day, the story goes like this. Mike Jones is a 15-year-old on his way to visit his uncle on an island. His uncle's an archaeologist for the island trying to make new discoveries, but when Mike arrives, he realizes that his uncle's gone missing. So Mike is tasked with setting off on an adventure to find him. He's gifted a magic yo-yo to help him through his journey and basically used as his main weapon. And just like that, it's off to the races. As you traverse through the game, you end up being swallowed by a whale. Mike then finds his uncle's assistant who alerts him that his uncle was abducted by aliens. So Mike's next task is then to go infiltrate the alien spaceship that took his uncle from him. And after confronting an alien named Zoda, Mike now has to defeat the alien. Upon doing so, Mike returns to Sea Island with his uncle, and all is well. So to be honest, the story's not everything. I mean, it's not a fantastic, heart-throbbing story, but it's all in the gameplay. Through the mix of dungeons and weapons, it's all a very familiar feel to The Legend of Zelda, but mixed in with a little bit of reality. In Legend of Zelda, you use a sword and a shield, whereas in Star Tropics, you use a yo-yo and a bat, and all these other normalized items that you might find in a kid's closet. Although very similar to the Legend of Zelda series, the Star Tropics series utilizes an overworld and a dungeons theme. The overworld can be treated as a hub. It's a way to get from dungeon to dungeon, and the dungeons are treated very differently from the overworld. As in the dungeon, your character is 8 by 16 pixels, where in the overworld your character is simply 8 pixels by 8 pixels. You can use weapons and potions in the dungeons, but you can't use anything in the overworld, nor do you need to. The overworld is treated more as a catalyst to progress the story, where the dungeon is where you'll find the true enjoyment. There are many different enemies and tasks to overcome to be able to get through the dungeons, but with your trusty yo-yo and other weapons like baseball bats, clacker balls, cleats, you'll be able to get through just fine. And the progression of difficulty isn't way too much for your average game player to enjoy. The developers of the game specifically made this game to be a version of Legend of Zelda for the American market, as the Japanese tended to make games for their market and then transfer them over to the West. This game was made solely as an American release, and the studio who created this game wasn't even really known for making the games. They were more into hardware. But sometimes they drop a gem on us like Star Tropics and Punch-Out! However, after this, the IP for Star Tropics was pretty much left in the dust, never picked up again. And unfortunately, from the looks of it, it doesn't seem like we're ever going to get a sequel to it. We're way too far in the progression of gaming to be able to pick up where we left off, and I think this is just one of the games that will be left to time. However, that doesn't mean the game is impossible to find. In fact, if you own a Switch and you have an online subscription, you can play it in the NES Classics collection. And I fully recommend you try this game out, because this is truly a game of the times. Other than that, that's all I really have for you guys today though. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, I appreciate that very much, and I'll see you in the next one.